Hello and thanks for joining us for our presentation about practical approaches to grant writing. The purpose is to demonstrate to you how you can use a team approach to learn practical steps to writing grants. We want you to gain confidence in your ability to write grants so you can be successful in obtaining funding for your chapter's programs. But let's step back for a minute to January 2012 when the Resource Development Committee conducted a survey of Assistance League chapter presidents. The survey was completed by 92 respondents. 85% reported grant income on their financial statements. So this is an important avenue of obtaining funding for a chapter. It is interesting that only 8% reported using GrantStation and only 12% used Foundation Center to identify their grantors. 67% desired to pay $40 to purchase access to a funder database, and 77% wanted additional training on grant writing. We hope this is just the beginning of our journey to learning about grant writing. This presentation and a complete update to the chapter manual for grants has been completed to answer this need. Right from the start, we wanted to focus our presentation around using a team approach to writing grants for an Assistance League chapter. Getting 3 to 5 members to work together on obtaining a grant will make the work much more fun. The individuals chosen to participate should have some basic communication skills. Most of all, the grant members will be well served if they have patience and persistence as part of their personality. Besides having personality with patience and persistence, the grant members should also have the following skills. They must be able to use the internet to search websites. They should be proficient in using software applications such as Word and Excel, have the ability to write concisely, organize materials, follow directions, and work with the program chairs who are going to spend the money brought in by the grant. We will have more on team development later. Now let's get on with our presentation. And besides a team, we need to establish a process to work within. Just like when we are taking a trip and we make plans to get from one point to another, we need structure to be successful with our grant writing activities. We do not want to spend a whole lot of time on describing a process today because this will be a little different for each chapter. However, it is important that the board knows who is writing grants for the chapter. This will generally be done by establishing a grants committee with a chairman. If the chairman has some skill in writing grants, that will be useful. If not, they should be someone who can inspire others to come together to complete the needed work. It is very important that there is open communication with the program chairs that are running the programs that need funding. A grant writer can only write a good grant if they understand what is needed, have good information about the program, and where available, statistics that show what the program has done to date and what can be expected with new or additional funding. We are going to break the topic of grant lessons into 6 smaller modules. Right from the start, we want you to think about how the members of your grant committee might be better at doing one task over another. For instance, one member may like to search for grantors. Another may like to do the actual writing, and yet another member might take on the role of keeping everybody on the same page as to which grantors are being approached and when the deadlines are due. We have chunked the material into 6 small modules: preparation, funding, writing, submission, decision, and yes, more team development, but let's start from the beginning with preparation. While there are many things that we can discuss when it comes to preparation, like establishing a place and time to meet, writing up an agenda, and having someone take minutes, we would like to focus your attention to the issues around preparation as it relates to the computer. 2 things are vitally important to the long-range success of your work. One is developing an online file management system, and the second is learning some advanced features in the software application. First, let's talk about the online file management system. You may have heard about Dropbox. Dropbox is an online file management system where electronic files are kept that will be needed in the application process. One of the first things your grant committee wants to do is establish a chapter Dropbox. Again, this is an online file management system. out in the clouds where needed files will be stored. Files are available to all members who have access. Files are available on your computer without having to log in. Files are safe and secure and are being backed up by Dropbox. The first 2 gigabytes of data storage are free, and that's a lot of storage. Setting up Dropbox is relatively easy. We will have additional information about Dropbox at the end of the presentation. Save yourself some time. Once you have Dropbox set up, go to your treasurer and obtain electronic files of the following documents: the IRS determination letter, the Form 990, the audited financials, and the current budget. Be sure that the files are stored in the smallest size possible. This means the files need to be saved in kilobytes instead of megabytes. If the file size is too large, it will not be able to be saved during the online application process. If the documents are not available to you electronically, then you will need to scan the documents into a portable document file or PDF. Again, be sure the files have been saved in kilobytes instead of megabytes. These documents are always required by the grantors for even the simplest of grants. You are going to create a folder in Dropbox for each one of these documents and put the appropriate file into the folder. Be sure to label the file with the appropriate year, such as budget, fiscal year ending 2012. The next area in preparation is using software applications. Conquering Word and Excel will make your grant writing experience more fun and a lot easier to do. It is good to understand a couple of the advanced features of Word, that is, word count and tracking changes. You can go to the Help button on the Word program to learn how to use these features. The word count feature will help determine how many characters or words you have in a piece of writing. This is important when doing an online application, since the dialog boxes limit the number of characters and words that can be submitted. The Track Changes feature is helpful when 2 people are working on a document and making changes to the document. It is a lot easier to point out where a change is needed in the actual document. In Excel, the Sort Data feature is useful when reviewing evaluation data. One thing is important. Always save your documents in the lowest version. For instance, period DOC used in Word 2003 rather than period DOCX used in Word 2007. This is important to do so that members using older software applications will be able to open the documents that are stored. Now that we have grant members have gotten Dropbox in place, documents in folders, and our computers are warmed up and ready to go, we need to turn to the second module. Funding or finding grantors is a major step to securing a grant. We could do it on the internet through an internet search, but that would make climbing the mountain a lot harder than it needs to be. Better yet, we can use the internet and access GrantStation to assist us in the process. Besides finding the name of a grantor in GrantStation, it will also be helpful for us to find the grantor's Form 990 on GuideStar. Before we demonstrate how relatively easy this process is, let us explain that the National Assistance League has negotiated access to GrantStation for its members for $47 per subscription. You can find out more about this opportunity by contacting your president, who has been given information about GrantStation and how to access it for your chapter. GrantStation does not have a database of Form 990s, but one can search these by accessing GuideStar. It is a free service. However, the member must register on the site to have access to potential grantors' Form 990. The next part of the presentation is a little bit more detailed. Don't take notes. All of the following information will be available to you on the National Assistance League's website and on their YouTube channel. So let's show you how we find a lead in GrantStation and then get more detail about the grantor on GuideStar. When you first start working with these websites, it will seem like a lot of steps, but soon you'll be clicking right through to where you want to be at. Open GrantStation. After you have paid your subscription fee and obtained the username and password, go ahead and enter the username and password and select Login. On the left side of the screen, select U.S. Grants. When the next screen opens, select U.S. Charitable Giving Databases. When the next screen opens, select Advanced Search. When you get to this place in GrantStation, you are ready to provide some criteria to focus the search as closely as possible to a grantor that will be a match for your chapter's program needs. This is where the fun starts. So I'm going to show you how I searched for a grantor in the state of Nevada. Check the funders with a specific geographic focus, and then select the down arrow until Nevada shows up. Now you will need to scroll down to the next section, which identifies an area of interest. So let's select Children, Youth, and Poverty as a way to refine the names of the grantors that the program will generate. As I am selecting these criteria, I am thinking I would like to write a grant for Operation School Bell. We can select 3 criteria in this section. I am only selecting 2 since if I select another one, it will refine the search too much and no potential grantors will come up. In the third step, we select a type of support. I checked Project Program Support since we are trying to find some funders for our program, Operation School Bell. Okay, I told you this is where the fun starts. The search results shows 9 potential grantors. This is pretty exciting. With a few minutes of time and clicking a few buttons in a computer application, we have screened many grantors, and now we can focus on only 9 that are best matched for the criteria that we used. We are getting closer to finding funding for our programs. We are feeling good about our progress, but we are not done yet. Let's explore a little further. Let's select the link to the Terry Lee Wells Foundation. As we look behind the link, we find general information about the foundation. GrantStation is not specific to regions within a state. Just because a grantor gives to a state does not mean that he will give to a specific region. For instance, grantors can give to Nevada, but may focus their funds to Reno rather than Las Vegas. Or in Missouri, the grantor may give to Kansas City, but not to St. Louis. It is important to keep digging until the member can determine that the grantor gives to grantees in their specific region. And as we can see, the Terry Lee Wells Foundation gives to all counties in Nevada except Clark County. That would be that they do not give to Las Vegas and they do give to Reno. Now we are really getting excited. We continue down the page and see the more specific areas the foundation is interested in funding. The application procedures let the member know where they may look to find the specific application guidelines. Also, the member wants to highlight and copy the EIN or Employee Identification Number. This will be used in looking up the grantor in GuideStar. The EIN is copied and then pasted into GuideStar's search box. Using the EIN is the most direct way to access the Form 990 on GuideStar. If the EIN is not available, then the name of the grantor will need to be entered into GuideStar's search box. But before we can paste, we have to open up GuideStar so we can view Form 990s. There are many important pieces of information on the grantor's Form 990 that will help us understand how to approach them for funding. So let's get started. First, if you have not registered on GuideStar, you will need to register. So go into the GuideStar link and enter your email address and a password that you will use in the future to log in with. Once you have registered, you will be able to log in and then search for a grantor, which is free. If you have the EIN, paste or enter it into the search dialog box on GuideStar and start your search. So again, we paste or enter the EIN or the name of the potential grantor into the search box and select Start Your Search. Now we see the summary page for the Terry Lee Wells Foundation. Select the red link with the name of the foundation and a subfolder opens. Now select Forms 990 and Docs tab. Select the 2010 Form 990 and wait. Sometimes it can take more than a few minutes to upload the file to your computer, depending on the size of the file and the service that you have. The files are in PDF. Once you get the file uploaded, it is good practice to save it to a Dropbox folder so that you will have it for further research. Okay, now we have Form 990 and we are feeling good about getting through all the clicks. The information on the Form 990 helps us decide whether we want to complete an application. On the Form 990, we find the total amount that was distributed. We find the names of directors, important to determine if we know any of these individuals. In Part 15, we find information about where to mail the application. Sometimes there is information about whether applications are received year-long or whether there is a specific deadline that needs to be met, and a phone number of the designated individual to call for more information. The last part of the Form 990 provides information about who received grants and the amount that was paid out. It is prudent to look at this information and to determine what is an appropriate amount to request. We are almost ready to write an application for funding. Only one more website to check out, and that would be the grantor's website. So we go to the Terry Lee Wells Foundation website. So we go out to the internet and search on the grantor's website. In our case, Terry Lee Wells Foundation. When we get here, we see the guidelines, the process, and the application. This information should be printed out and studied. We are looking for any reason why we would not want to fill out the application. If the chapter member is not the primary person who will be writing the grant, she should share this information with the actual chapter member who will write the grant. After searching around, we find the application form. Here we can see the specific instructions on the left side of the screen and the application form on the right side. Again, it is very important to read these over at least 3 times before filling them out. And this is an example of a paper submission. The first few times one does a search for funding sources, it seems like a lot of work. There is a lot more fun if you are working with someone to learn how to do the process, and then soon you both will be doing independent searches. This is really not that hard when you realize that you could be finding an application that could land anywhere from $1,000 to $50,000 for your organization and the programs that it is trying to fund. Now we are off to our next lesson or module called Writing. Remember, we pointed out that patience and persistence would pay off, and it has. You now have an application in front of you. You have read the instructions and the application at least 3 times. When you are working as a team, you may find that the person that found the grant is not the chapter member that will now fill out the application. The first thing one needs to do is determine if they are completing a paper submission or an online submission. It is important at this point that one knows when the requirement for submission is, whether it is open or there is a specific date where submission must be completed. One must understand any restrictions that need consideration, such as the number of pages that can be included in the application or how many words or characters that can be included in the online dialog boxes. Some members have filled out paper applications but are not comfortable completing online applications. It is very important that the member follow precisely any guidelines or requests for information that the grantor makes. It is not the time to use your creative writing skills. Write concisely, check grammar and spelling, and always, always, always have someone else read the application prior to submission. There are 3 pieces of information generally that will need to be put together by the grant writer. Remember, you can do this as a team, especially if you are new to Assistance League. First, find a more seasoned chapter member and get the information that you need to write the chapter history, the program narrative, and the program budget. Need help on budgeting? We suggest you spend some time with the treasurer. Oftentimes, I use the chapter's budget and highlight the area in the budget that demonstrates the revenue and expenses for a program. We don't have time today to demonstrate how to go about writing a solid chapter history or program narrative, or how to construct a more specific budget. More about that in a few minutes when we talk about our blog. Okay, we have found a grantor, figured out the application procedures, determined which program we are writing for, and had someone else review our entire package. We are now ready to submit our proposal to the grantor. Our next lesson or module is submission. We want to take a few minutes before we seal the envelope or hit the button to submit the application. Read the guidelines one more time. Make sure you know where to mail the paper proposal. Put the proposal in a large envelope. Do not fold it. Be sure to mail with a return receipt, or if possible, hand carry the proposal to the grantor's office. Be very careful to review an online grant submission prior to hitting the send or submit button. Be sure that you place a full copy of the grant to the permanent hard file in the chapter house. We do not save the Form 990 budget and audited financial attachments to the hard file copy, since it would make the file too fat. Save a copy of the grant to a folder in Dropbox so the rest of the team has access to it. You will have to print the online application and then save the file to Dropbox in a PDF after you have scanned it. You will thank yourself for taking this step when you find your next grant opportunity and want to use the information developed again. In the decision module or lesson, we focus on what to do when the decision comes. Waiting to get the decision on your grant proposal can seem like an eternity. If you are successful, send a thank you letter as soon as possible after notification. Also, the president will send the required tax letter from the chapter to the grantor. Be sure to send any other paperwork required by the grantor. If you are unsuccessful, try to determine what you could do to improve your chances the next time you apply to this grantor. It is important to communicate the decision to the president, treasurer, and the vice president of resource development. Now that you have one grant application under the belt, it is time to write some more, and that takes us back to team development. We all want to sing the grantor's success song, and to do that we have to have a strong committee or team. Team development needs a strong chairman who is passionate about raising money through grants for the chapter. The individual needs to know how to set an agenda, run a meeting, and see that minutes are taken. The chairman should be able to work with a variety of personalities. Using a subcommittee for the sole purpose of identifying grantors is very useful in bringing opportunities to the committee for potential new grantors. Talking about new grantors, we also want to talk about new members. As each class of new orientees comes in, be sure to determine if there are any individuals who would be right for the grants committee. Look at their skills and determine who can help and how they can help the committee process. It is very important for the chairman to conduct an annual evaluation and determine the committee's strengths and weaknesses. Hooray! We are to the summary, but we hope that you don't leave early because we have a surprise for you. Each of the grant lessons that we have discussed, preparation, funding, writing, submission, decision, and team development, all could use more time. Today we focused mostly on the funding or finding a grantor and dipped into the writing lesson for a few minutes. Each chapter has 2 opportunities to improve their grant writing abilities after they leave the conference. We are coming to the close of our presentation, and in a few minutes we will be able to take a few questions. But don't go away, because we want to remind you that you can purchase GrantStation for $47 if you have not already done so to find grantors. Now we have one more opportunity for you. We are hosting a blog called Grant Lessons. Before we go, we want to tell you about our blog. Grant Lessons has more detail on the 6 modules that we have been discussing. There are checklists that you can use to determine the health of your grant process within your chapter. There are examples, resources, and videos. So come and join us as we work together to find funders through the grant process to help others through our programs in communities across the United States. Join the blog where you can see what we are up to in our grant writing process. See the handout for the address of the blog, which is simply www.grantlessons.wordpress.com. This video and the handout will be on the National Assistance League's website and YouTube channel after the conference. We want to take this opportunity to thank 2 committees: the National Resource Development Committee, chaired by Anita Friesen, and the Assistance League of Reno Sparks Grants Committee, chaired by Peggy Miller. Without these committees and the work of its members, what you have seen today would not have been possible. So as we say goodbye, be sure to join us on our blog where we will continue this discussion. Come join in on the fun. We hope to see you soon on the blog.